This
in college.
conference will now be recorded.
9th to 15th July 2020. I heartfully thank our beloved principal, Dr. B. Srinivas Reddy Garu, for providing us this wonderful opportunity to conduct this FTP. I thank the resource persons, Dr. B. Santosh Kumar, Associate Professor of CSC, Mr. K. Balachodappa, and Sri K. Sudhakar, Assistant Professors of CSC, for readily accepting to act as subject experts or resource persons for this FTP. I also thank Dr. C. Sridhar, Associate Professor and Convener of this FTP, to organize this event. Nowadays, especially in this COVID-19, FTPs have become an excellent platform for knowledge sharing. And I heartily welcome all the participants across the nation for this 1 week online FTP. Generally, the learning is a lifelong activity for every human being and even for teaching community. That is, we need to upgrade ourselves with the new technologies and trends in the market, especially for computer science field. These new tools or new technologies make our work easy, our computations in smarter way, and analysis in a better way. Keeping up this in view, we came up with the faculty development program on introduction to data mining and machine learning. This gives opportunity to all the participants to get the basic fundamental insightful knowledge of new techniques in the industry. And this FTP will be immensely useful for the beginning level and middle level research scholars, PG students, and for newly recruited faculty, because it is only the basic course. I'm happy to say that in continuation of this FTP, we are also planning to conduct another FTP on machine and deep learning, that is extension of this FTP, by inviting resource persons from reputed institutions and industries, because machine learning and deep learning is involved so many advanced topics. So for that, we are inviting the various reputed resource persons from reputed institutions and as well as the industry. We are charting out that program. I hope all of you come forward to register and participate in that also. That is upcoming FTP, which is to be scheduled in the last week of July 2020. Tentatively, we are planning from 22nd or 23rd July of this month. I thank all the enthusiast participants for their great participation in this FTP throughout the coming next 7 days. I wish you all the best and have a wonderful time in this FTP. Thank you. Now, I request Dr. C. Sridhar, convener of this FTP, to introduce today's resource person. Thank you. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you very much, sir, for the speech given for the FTP participants. Now, I take the privilege to introduce the resource person, Dr. B. Santosh Kumar. Dr. Santosh graduated in the year 2003 from RGM Engineering College and MS from Kentucky University, United States in 2006. He has completed his PhD from Pondicherry University in 2019. He has been working in this college for the past 10 years. He is currently associate professor in CSC department. And with his vast experience, I believe Dr. Santosh can give the best to the FDP participants. I request all the participants to be in the mute mode during the session. Queries can be posted in the chat. Now, I would like to hand over the session to Dr. Santosh.
Thank you, Kasi Srinath sir and Sridhar sir. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the today's session on fundamentals of data mining and machine learning. So, as both of the sirs have explained, this FDP mainly focus on the fundamental parts of data mining and machine learning, so that newly recruited faculty and research scholars, they'll be helpful from this session and carry forward their research work, or if the faculty wants to take up the course, it will be helpful for them. So today I'll be explaining the fundamentals of data mining and machine learning, and how data mining and machine learning are interrelated to one another, and how these technologies are helpful in the present era. So we'll go into this session further. So nowadays, in the today's digital era, many of the companies, organizations, both if it is a public or private sectors, have been storing enormous amount of data in their servers. So for example, if we consider travel industry, they'll be storing information about the passengers who have traveled with them, their profiles, and which travel options they have given and everything. So if you take the sports industry or gaming industry, they'll be having the details about the players, their all the statistics and everything. If you take the bank sectors, they'll be having information about the customers who have paid the loan successfully, who are defaulted, and many more things. Samely with the educational sector, they'll be having lots of data regarding the students and everything. So with this huge amount of data which they are trying to store, and which they are storing in the present servers, what now the companies or organizations are doing is to explore a kind of new knowledge from the existing data. So suppose if you take the bank sectors, with the current existing information of the customers, they want to know which kind of persons will be able to pay the loan properly, who customers they can afford to buy the loans and they can pay for it. And if you take the travel industry, also the same thing. And if you take the medical sector, depending on the existing disease symptoms, they'll be able to further investigate on how the persons would react to other symptoms and everything. So with this current existing data, they want to know something more than that. So with this raw data, they want to extract some useful knowledge, so that companies might get benefited from them, and the travel industry and the medical sector will get benefited from them, and they might attract their customers. So here comes the role of data mining in this process. And data mining is a very useful technique where the knowledge can be extracted from the raw data. So if you want to define a data mining, you can call it as the significant extraction of implicit and previously unknown useful information from the data. So here the keywords are previously unknown and potential useful information. So what are the information that is not present in the raw data that the companies or organizations they are trying to extract it. So you can also call it as the process of automatically discovering the useful information in the large repositories. Basically, both of them mean the same thing. So, as I told you, these applications range from vast varieties like banking sectors, customer relationship management. So, if you take the customer relationship management, they want to identify the customers who are living for the other competitors. Say, if you take Amazon and Netflix, right now in this corona pandemic, many of them are preferring for the digital platforms. So, they want to know who are going for the other competitors, how they can target these customers and how they can keep it with themselves. And when you take the customers who are into the clothing sector or something, which type of clothes they prefer and at what season they prefer, such kind of things. So when you take the telecommunication or financial transactions, they want to identify who are doing the fraudulent events like credit card transaction fraud and stuff. When I told you about the medicine sector also, and if a company wants to improve their website, they want to know like how the customer is relying upon which data he is more interested in, and according to that they can change the layout of the website, and they can introduce some promotions so that it will be more useful for them to attract the customers. So we already know about these attributes and data and what an object are. Just to brief it out, attribute is nothing but, if you take a large collection of data, is nothing but a column in the data. But technically speaking, attribute, you can call it as a characteristic of an object. So if you take a person as an object, a company as an object, a sports person as an object, whatever the data you are referring to will represent a row, and whatever the properties they are having, you represent it as columns. So these columns represent the attributes, and collection of these attributes will become an object. So if you group together this kind of objects, and if you keep them together in a file, it becomes a data or nothing but a data set. So which we are currently using for the extraction of the knowledge. So when we look into the type of attributes, so this might be helpful while we are dealing with the pre-processing techniques, like what is different kinds of attribute. So just I'm giving a brief introduction about it. So there are basically categorized as categorical or numerical attributes. So categorical, they are also known as qualitative attributes, and numerical, they are also called as quantitative attributes. So again, in the categorical attributes, you have mainly two categories, nominal and ordinal. So when you see this, the main thing is the operations which we can perform on those attributes. So nominal attributes are nothing but like a names of a streets or employee IDs or the zip code of a street, whether it's a male or a female. So you can apply the main relationships, or whether both the street names are equal or the employees IDs are equal or both the genders are equal. So there won't be any meaning in applying other relation kind of things like a less than or greater than on these attributes. So basically they represent the. So when we come to the ordinal attributes, uh, these can be compared. So you can apply the relationship either equal to, not equal to, or you can apply the relationships less than, greater than on this. So if you take the grades of the students, they'll be having the ABC grades, so you can compare with them. If you take the hardness of minerals, which one is gooder, which one is better and best, all of these things can be categorized as ordinal attributes. So the operations which can be performed on nominal also can be applied to ordinal, as well as some extra relationships can be applied to. So basically ordinal, you have less than and greater than relationships here. So those are categorized as qualitative attributes. So quantitative is nothing but they represent numbers, and they are basically numeric kind of things. And here the interval attributes are where you can perform addition or subtraction. So the main things like the calendar dates, how many days are before, in between those two dates, or how much temperature is varying, that kind of things you can go for interval attributes. And when it comes to the ratio attributes, there will be, you can also perform division and multiplication along with this addition and subtraction. So the main things will be like age and mass and length and other things. So this is a basic description of the attributes which you might find in different data sets. And This is mainly useful because you want to convert nominal attributes into numeric or ordinal attributes into some other kind of thing. So you just want to know what is meant by nominal or what is meant by ordinal or ratio. So that is the purpose of this one. So coming to the main data mining tasks. As I told you, from the raw data, you'll be extracting the useful information. So the data mining tasks are basically categorized as predictive and descriptive tasks. So predictive tasks are nothing but depending on the value of the previous attributes. So if you take some data, depending on the values of the previous attributes, say refund, marital status, and taxable income, they'll be able to determine the value of the current attribute. So this cheat, you can take it as yes or no, is nothing but who is fraudulent or not. So if you want to say depending upon the previous attributes, you can go through these attributes and check whether it is yes or no. So here the values of the previous attributes, you can predict the current attribute or the output class. So when you take the descriptive tasks, they are basically categorized into clustering and anomaly detection, where the data or the output class is not dependent on the previous attributes. So that
మ్యాన్ పవర్ చాలా తక్కువ ఉంటుంది.
so that
అని అదే మన బీటెక్ ఎంటెక్ అంటే ఇంకేమన్నా
sir, can I leave the
ఎవరన్నా పిహెచ్డి ఎవరో మ్యాథమెటిక్స్ అవుతున్నట్టుండే సార్. మొత్తం 3 పిహెచ్డీలు ఎన్ని?
sorry for the interruption. So the descriptive tasks are where it doesn't depend upon the information of the previous attributes or the values of the previous attributes, and only the underlying relationship between the data will be taken into account. So they don't have to do anything with the previous attributes. They will just take the data from all the attributes and they'll be extracting some meaningful information. So if you take this data mining task, they are basically categorized of this predictive modeling, clustering, association rules, and anomaly detection. So as I told you, predictive modeling is nothing but based on the previous attributes, you'll be discovering the class, whether it is a yes or no, true or false, or whether he is a cheat or not, or whether he's employed, or whether he's able to buy the product or not, such kind of things. So anomaly detection is nothing but the fraudulent transactions which are being done by the customers. All those things come under anomaly detection. So the irrelevant data which is present in the data sets, that will be extracted and it will be removed. And when you take the association rules, depending on the goods which the customer is buying, whether he is buying the other goods or not. So if a person is buying a milk, and he'll be definitely buying the Pampers from that particular shop or supermarket. So these kind of things, you call it as association rules. So association rules will help the customers or the companies to focus on the customers who are buying the products at the same time. So when you take the clustering is nothing but dividing the customers into groups, like who is belonging to A group, B group, or C group. Like, or if you can take a species of animals like reptiles and mammals, amphibians, so such kind of things, we call it as clustering. So basically, the classification, you can represent it mainly in terms of a decision tree. So here you can see the attributes will be taken, employed attribute will be taken, and depending on yes or no, it will be going to the next attribute, and this will be continued until you get the final output. So this will be determined. So basically, in data mining tasks, these can be done programmatically or manually by the programmers. The same thing. So depending on the previous attributes, if a new attribute or new information is given, you should be able to determine the output class depending on this information. So this kind of thing you call it as prediction. So depending on the previous ad. So the examples of this we have already discussed, like credit card fraud transactions, and weather and sports and finance, whether you want to categorize the data. So next comes the association analysis. So like I have explained you before, here whoever is buying the product A, who is tending to buy the also the product B, those will be determined in association analysis. So these are the sample transactions of the customers in a supermarket where we have these kind of products. So if you see this kind of data, you'll be developing the association rules. And if you see the main association rules, like who is buying a bread can buy the milks or milk, who is buying the milks also can buy the diapers. So such kind of relationships can be explained with this association analysis. So when we come to cluster analysis, so this is an example of articles. So where we have taken the count of each word which is appearing and the number of times it is appearing into the article. So when we group these data, you can see that first 4 articles, they are related to economic wise. So you can see a dollar, again, jobless rise, the market and country index and such kind of thing. So these information can be grouped under one cluster, namely like economic data. And when you see the next 4 records, they are mainly related to the medical field, where patients, companies, and drugs, vaccines, and everything is present. So cluster analysis, mainly you are getting the data as raw products, like the words which are appearing in the papers or the websites, and you are able to divide the information into clusters. So here there is no need of previous attributes or some other information. So they'll be able to extract the information directly. So anomaly detection is nothing but the fraudulent transactions or the unusual patterns which are existing in the data. So what basically data mining does is, the programmer or the customers, if you want to know such things, they have to be programmed, and they have to give it in the form of a program or a website kind of thing, and then they have to filter the data, and then they have to extract the knowledge. So machine learning, what it does is, it basically makes the computer learn by itself, or the machine learn by itself, and give the output from the data available. So if you can define machine learning, machine can be defined as the science of programming computers so that they can learn from the data. So here, the computers can be learned without explicitly being programmed. So once they are trained with the data, they'll be actually learning from the previous experiences. And whatever the input you want now, or whatever the data you want now, you can give it as input, and you will be getting the final output. So you need not program the whole thing. They'll be already learned by the system itself. And whatever the data you need or whatever the information you need, it will be trained by the computer system itself, and it will be extracting the information to the user or the companies. So the best example which we can see is the spam filter. Spam filter is a machine learning program where you can divide based on the experiences of previous emails. So whether it is a spam email or not a spam email. So here the performance is mainly like how much of data you are classifying it correctly, whether it is a spam or not. So non-spam mails are also called as ham emails. So you'll be able to classify them as correctly, but this can be done automatically by the system without being explicitly programmed. So when you take whole the data mining process, when you see the steps involved here, the raw data which you are having, the extensive data. So whatever we see in our practical sessions deals with some kind of small data only. When you go for companies or organizations, You might have millions and millions of rows and columns and attributes and data. So from that, whatever the data you require, that should be selected for our processing. So that you call it as a target data. And from this target data, if there are any discrepancies like some missing values or some absurd values are present in the target data, that have to be removed first before sending the actual process data to the machine learning algorithm. So if you see, this pre-processing is a very useful technique before going to the actual machine learning algorithm. So all the data which is available, it has to be pre-processed, and the pre-processing, when it is done, the data is okay to go, and this can be fed to the machine learning algorithm so that the computer can understand by itself, and it gets trained. And whenever you see other new useful information or other useful data whichever you want from the output, so that can be fed in the same way after pre-processing, and the machine learning algorithm will automatically detect it, and the knowledge will be given as output. So this is the process how machine learning can be interrelated to data mining. So both of the concepts are mainly interrelated. So machine learning is involved in data mining process involved in machine learning. So they are both interrelated, and the concepts are also interrelated. So how they are interrelated, we can see while going through the actual machine learning concept. So while going further into the details, so first, as I said, the data has to be pre-processed so that it can be fed to the machine learning algorithm. So from that, you will train the algorithms and you'll be getting the output knowledge. So first, today we'll be discussing this pre-processing technique, what kind of pre-processing and basics of pre-processing technique like normalization or filling up the blank values or NaN values. NaN values represent non-numeric values which can be in Excel sheet, and which can give errors while this machine learning algorithms are being executed. So we'll deal with this pre-processing now, and we'll see what is the pre-processing techniques. So the major tasks involved in data pre-processing techniques are data cleaning. So data cleaning basically deals with the missing values. So where the values which are missed or which are noisy data or which are lying outliers is nothing but which are not related in a sense to the existing data. So those R will be cleaned up, and new data will be introduced so that we'll be having a good data for the machine learning algorithm. So when we come to the data integration, it is nothing but from multiple databases or files, all this data will be integrated into a single database or single huge kind of file, so that we can apply machine learning algorithms onto that. So data reduction, basically, if you have a large number of columns, you can reduce them depending upon the requirements. And compression mainly deals with the image sizes like that. So transformation, it is nothing but it involves a process of normalization. So normalization is a very useful concept when you go for the further machine algorithms like regression and kind of stuff, where if you have a wide range of numeric data, you should be able to normalize into a minimum and maximum limit, whichever you want. So basically, we'll be dealing with the simple examples of data cleaning and data transformation further. Okay. So these are the four kinds of techniques which we have studied: data cleaning, integration, transformation, and reduction. So this is a pictographical representation of what we have seen earlier. So when you take this data cleaning, as I said you, if something like occupation is missing, or something like salary is NaN or something like that, it gives you an error while you are going to the actual algorithms. So you have to clean up this data, and you have to perform some operations so that it will be filled up with some new data, so that the data set will be ready for giving as input to the machine learning. So next comes the normalization. So here we'll be dealing with min-max normalization and z-score normalization. Decimal scaling is pretty much easy. So whatever value you give as input, it will be divided by 10 power of something, where the output value will be given as some value which is less than 1. So min-max normalization, here you can specify the new minimum values and new maximum values, whichever you want. So as an example, I have explained here, this is the main arithmetic behind this main min-max normalization. So when you take the income range, which is from 12,000 to 98,000, and when the user or the customer wants to when the programmer wants to normalize it between 0 and 1. So the new max and new min value will be 1, 0, and new max will be 1. So depending on the old data, so if you are taking the income as 73,600, so we have minimum and maximum as these one. And when you apply this arithmetic, you'll be getting the new value as 0.716. So basically the values which are in some 10,000s and lakhs will be converted between zeros and ones. So these will be useful for regression analysis and stuff, which is very much useful. And when you take the z-score normalization, it is nothing but the previous data, you'll minus it with mean of the data. Mean is nothing but the average, and you divide it with the standard deviation of that particular column. So basically, you are taking the data and you are doing a subtraction with the mean of that particular column, and you are dividing with the standard deviation of that particular column. So here we have assumed the mean and standard deviation of the attributes, and now 73,600 will be converted into a smaller value, which is like 1.2. So here there is no need like specifying the range. They might vary from 0 to 10 or something like that. So, but basically it is the values will be reduced to a large extent. So before going showing the some of the coding part, I would like to emphasize on the Python libraries, which are mainly useful for our purpose, for the data science or machine learning purpose. So basically, these are the very much helpful things. So NumPy, it is used for converting all the data into the array format, and you can extract some information and perform some manipulation on that. So it is known as numerical Python. And SciPy is a scientific Python. It has all the classes and everything which are needed for the scientific evaluation. And the pandas mainly deals with the data analysis. So whatever data you have in the data sets, that will be brought out and that will be kept as data frames so that you can analyze on that data from the data frames. So for that analysis, this pandas will be useful. And scikit-learn, this is basically built upon SciPy only, where it has all the scientific class libraries and modules which are related to the machine learning algorithms. So when we type the visualization is nothing but like plotting graphs and kind of things. So these are the main classes or libraries which are helpful. Like Matplotlib or Seaborn. So Matplotlib, it gives some of the functions where you can plot bar graphs, pie charts. So visualization, we'll be seeing an example, and we'll be seeing the example of a normalization also. So through the coding. So when we take this coding part, so first we'll see the visualization. Visualization is nothing but depending on the data sets whichever you have, some meaningful information which you can extract from the data. So here I have taken a file which is called a CGPA, which is a CSV file, and I have kept it on the desktop. So here I am using a Matplotlib to plot the graphs and pandas to bring the data into the data sets. So here pandas libraries has a method read underscores CSV from where we'll be reading the data, and it is kept into a data frame. So data frame is nothing but bringing the data into your own space and performing some operation. So it will be displayed like this. So what it does is head method. What does it do is it is applied in a data frame where you want to extract the first how many number of rows you want from the data frame. So here we have given it as 50, and all those data is brought out, and we'll be printing those data here. And we are plotting different graphs as scatter plot, where we'll be taking the roll number and CGPA of the student. So if you observe this, the 50 rows of the data are being displayed like this. So it's just a sample roll number and CGPA of the data. So the first 50 rows will be displayed, and the index will be shown as 0 to 49. And the scatter plot, it will be shown like this. So these are colors, we have set it up in the code where we have given roll number as Dean and CGPA. So when you call this show function, the graph will be displayed. And same thing with the line graph. So this line graph, basically what it does, it prints a line here. So where you can see the roll number and CGPA, how they are varying, kind of stuff. And lastly, if you see, you are just plotting a graph. So where bar graph, so which is showing the roll numbers and CGPA. So here we have alternate the colors. We ourselves in the code, we have done like this: first green, blue, pink, and red. So consecutively, all these colors will be displayed like that only till the end of the graph. So this is about the matplotlib functions, which are the basic kind of things which might be useful for visualization. And when you take this another thing, which is a pie chart, so you want to know how many students have got the CGPA above 9 and who are between 8 and 9 and below 8. So such kind of things, if you want to know, if you want to visualize such kind of things, so you can just take the data and you can just take the values which are greater than 9 and 8, lying between 8 and 9. And here you are choosing the values, like which color has to be applied for which one. So 9 CGPA, it is showing in yellow color, 8 CGPA in red color, and others it will be shown in blue color. So you are basically trying to plot a pie graph. So legend is the one which is shown in the box, which will be giving the description here. So the description of that. So who are the students who have got 9 CGPA? They will be shown in the yellow color, and the 8 corresponding to red color, and others they have represented by blue color. So this is the visualization part where from the data set, some useful information you are trying to see are how the data is related to one another columns, and how the columns are interrelated to one another. So next, coming to the pre-processing techniques. So pre-processing, we have discussed mainly about the normalization technique, basically the Z-score normalization and min-max normalization. So here I have taken a different file, salary.excel file. So before you have done with the CSV, now with Excel file. So it is displaying the values which are here shown. So here I wantedly kept NAN data here, so that non-numeric data, so that we have to pre-process it, and we can replace it with some other values. So what kind of strategy you are applying, that you can mention it in your code. Here we are applying the strategy of mean here. So basically, what are the values which are not present or which are appended by NAN, they will be replaced by mean of the data. So if you take mean of the salary attribute, if the mean of all the salary values, that value will be replaced in NAN. So that we are doing it with this data frame. So we are using the function ilog, which gives the all the rows and the last column in the data set, and you want to extract all the values in the last column. And we are using a simple imputer module which is present in sklearn. So as I told you, sklearn is basically for scientific analysis in Python. So it has a function impute where you can replace with the mean. So here you can say the imputer, and reshape is nothing but you are bringing the data into a single column and you are displaying it. So you are displaying the data and the last attribute with a single column. So here if you see this column which are is in the data set, it was previously represented by NaN value. Now you are representing it with the mean of that particular column. So 54,500, which is the mean of that particular attribute column. So this can be done in a simple way also. This is a more complex way using simple imputer. This is where you will be replacing the values and you'll be also showing that values in the data frame. So here the fill NA method is used, and whatever strategy you want to apply, you'll be applying here the mean of that particular attribute. In place, what it does is it replaces the value in the current existing data frame. So whatever data frame you are displaying here, it will automatically display the new value. So here, if you see fourth value in your column, it has been replaced by the mean. And similarly, if you see here, if there was a NaN value, that will also be replaced by the mean of the particular attribute column. So this is a simple strategy where you'll apply the normalization kind of thing. So this is a min-max normalization. So if you want, so here you are replacing with NaN values. So this is how you treat the missing values in the data set. So next we will see the normalization techniques. So normalization, basically we have seen min-max normalization and standard normalization. So the arithmetic which is involved behind this code, I have shown it in the previous slide. So min and max range will be taken and it will be minused with the new value will be minused with the min value, and the processing will be performed. And standard scalar is like a Z-score normalization. So the arithmetic behind this is already discussed in the previous slides. So now we'll see this code. So basically you are importing and you are creating an object for min-max scalar, which is basically a module in sklearn pre-processing library. So here you want to say that, so min-max scalar, what it does is the same thing as min-max normalization. So here you are taking an object of kind min-max scalar, and when you say fit transform, so this fit transform method, it does the min-max normalization and it transforms your data frame values, and those values are again stored back in your data frame. So I think some of you might be aware of the slicing technique in Python, where this dot represents rows and columns here. So if you have empty, it means all rows and all columns are being replaced by the new scaled values, that is applying the min-max scalar value. So if you take this output, all the attribute values or all the columns have been replaced by the min-max normalization technique. So here, if you see, all the values might range from 0 to 1. Highest in that particular column will be given as 1 and lowest will be 0, and remaining elements will be varying from 0 to 1. So you can see the data here. So why you need such kind of thing is for particular they might ask you for normalizing the data and using further. So it is better to have an idea about the pre-processing technique. So next comes the standard scalar, which is nothing but the what you call it as Z-score normalization. Here the same thing, you are creating an object for standard scalar, and here you are calling the fit transform method, and all the values which are scaled, and you are again putting them into the data. So here I have separated like this. So here if you see, there is not in the range of 0 to 1, it can be in any range, but the minimum value will be having the minimum value after normalization also. So, and the maximum values will be having the maximum value even though it is normalized. So basically it's nothing but converting a huge kind of data into small. So this is about the normalization technique. So another kind of technique which might be useful for you is the label encoding or one-hot encoding. So the reason why I told you about the normal attributes and such kind of stuff is here. Here this data set, I have taken it as the country name, the purchases values, like if the person is able to purchase or not, the age of the particular person, and the salary of the particular person. So this country attribute is a nominal attribute. So it has India, Russia, and Germany. So if you want to give it further for a machine learning algorithm, you have to convert them into a numeric format or some binary kind of format. So what label encoder does is, so if you take this label encoder, so first what we have done previously, we have done the normal, the missing values have been replaced with the mean, and the same thing applies here. And here the label encoder technique is adopted. So label encoder, what it does is it assigns some numeric values to the to the nominal values which are present here. So here if you take three countries, India, Russia, and Germany, so when you take the alphabetical order, Germany might come first, so it will be taken as 0, and India will be taken as 1, and Russia will be taken as 2. So label encoder assigns a numerical value to the nominal attributes, and it will replace all those values in the particular column. So if you only display these values in that particular column, now India has been replaced with 1, Russia and 2, and Germany with 0. So all these column values will be replaced in a numeric format. So such kind of technique is very useful only, but what it does is it kinds of create an impression like which is greater or small, such kind of things. So if you want to put it in a binary format or some numbering format, you can take it in a 0, 1, 0 format or 0, 0, 1. So what it does is it creates an array of values where the first column will represent Germany because it is the first in alphabetical order. Next column represents Russia, India, and next column represents Russia. So the first value in our country column, it was India. So now it is being represented by 1. And the second column, it has country Russia. So again, it is represented by 1. So German is represented 1. So here you don't have any relationship like greater or less. So this process you call it as one-hot encoding. So one-hot encoding, what it does is it converts your nominal attributes into numerical values, and sees that it does not have any relationship between them. So when you apply one-hot encoding, you are taking the country values here and you are transforming it to an array. So basically you are creating an object for this one-hot encoder, and you are creating the values and you are displaying the values which are stored in X. So that is the same output which I have shown here. So depending on the countries, the zeros and ones will be placed. So first column for Germany, second column for India, and third column for Russia. So these are some of the pre-processing techniques which might be useful for us. So when you see the uh, main data mining process, so the data mining process here, so whenever you are taking the data and before giving it to the machine learning algorithm, you are doing the pre-processing. And when you build the machine learning algorithm, you will automatically train with that particular data. That machine learning algorithm will determine the output of the new data which has arrived. So that is about the pre-processing techniques. So the next thing is about the machine learning algorithms, what kind of approaches are there and how machine learning algorithms will differ from the traditional approach. So I think let us take a 5 minutes break and then we'll come back to the session. Thank you, one and all. ఈ ప్లాన్ చేస్తే వింటున్నాను ఏమైనా డిస్టర్బెన్స్ వస్తాయని వింటున్నాను. Hello everyone, welcome back to this session. So first, before going to the actual machine learning process, we'll discuss the traditional approach which has been following the normal programming languages. So in the normal programming, what it happens is whenever a problem is given to the developers or the normal users, first you'll write a program or rules which follows our algorithm, and that will be evaluated. So according to the evaluations, if you have any errors, that will be analyzed again, and the problem will be again rectified, and those problems will be again solved, and the evaluation will be performed until you get a final desired output. So this is the traditional approach which has been following. Now what happens with the machine learning algorithm is you'll give the data to a machine learning algorithm. So the problem is studied and data is given here, and the evaluation is performed, and basically it also repeats the same thing. So the main process happens here. So the automatic updation adaptation will happen here. So the whenever the machine learning algorithm is trained, so the data is automatically, it can be updated or it can be changed by the users, and the solution is automatically achieved by the machine learning algorithm without being explicitly programmed also. So once you train the algorithm with the data given, so your automatic updations and everything will be done. The solution will be given according to the machine learning training only. So what is useful for the humans from the machine learning algorithm is that whenever the training process happens or whenever the solution is obtained, the humans or we can understand the problem much better, because how the machine is behaving with lots and lots of data, and that can be rectified, and the problem can be again reiterated, and the same thing again you can feed it back to the machine learning algorithm, so that machine will be trained again and you get the desired output. So here when you take data mining algorithms, before what they were doing is they are being explicitly programmed. Now with the invention of these machine learning algorithms, every uh, after pre-processing of data is performed, these machine learning algorithms will be trained and automatic generation of the desired output will be given according to the training. So here the machine learning algorithm is basically categorized, algorithms are basically categorized as supervised and unsupervised. So supervised algorithms, they are again basically we have classification, regression, and reinforcement algorithm is also there. And when you take unsupervised machine learning algorithms, they are basically divided into clustering and dimensioning. So here supervised machine learning is nothing but uh, each attribute is taken, and for the set of attributes an output is already given. So this training data, what it does is along with all the attributes you'll be having the output class also. So this data will be trained here, and the new whenever a new instance or a new data is given to the machine learning algorithm, it will automatically detect the new data. So when you see this, it is somewhat similar to the predictive tasks in data mining. But what it does in machine learning algorithm is it performs the operations automatically on the data and gives you the new output whenever the machine learning algorithm is trained. So some of the examples of supervised learning are k-nearest neighbor, linear regression, Bayesian trees, and random forests. So when you take the classification algorithm, the same thing which we have discussed. So all the attributes will be taken as input, and your class will be determined. So a machine learning algorithm will be trained, and after this training you will apply this model to the new data, so that new data you'll get the output of the particular class with the new kind of data. So all the attributes you are giving as input accord, and with that attributes you are also specifying the output. So with this the algorithm is getting trained, and it will be determining the new data output. So when you give like this already previous attributes and the classes, and when you train the algorithm, and when you get the new class output, that type of algorithms you call them as supervised machine learning algorithm. So best example is classification and regression. So classification, you can basically do it with a decision tree algorithm and random forest, which is nothing but combination of decision trees. And another kind of supervised machine learning algorithm is regression. So there are many kind of regression algorithms: linear regression, lasso regression, logistic regression. So the main difference between the classification and regression, this has to be understood for the beginners. So regression is used for mainly the numerical continuous values. So here, if you are giving the height of a person, you are determining the weight of a person. So when you are giving the data, it automatically gets trained, and it will derive an equation in the form y equal to mx plus b. And here you will be getting the output. Here you will be getting the values which are being already plotted, and this is the line which is depicted by the algorithm. So if you give any other new height which is not present in the existing data, it will determine the corresponding output, which is weight. So basically, this determines the numerical value based on the height. It will determine the weight. So this is a continuous kind of values. But when you take classification, it is basically like a yes or no, true or false, whether he is a good customer or bad customer, like such kind of things come under classification, like 0 or 1. So basically two values or 3, and basically 3 or 4 classes. Here you can determine the output, but it is a continuous value. So you'll be getting a output as an integer or float format depending on your input. So best description or a simple example is based on the previous inputs of the weather condition on the days. We will be determining the output values of the weather condition in the present day. So when you take the regression, the output value mainly depends on the day value, but it is a numerical value. So if you give a new day, or if you ask for the temperature of the current day, it will give you the temperature in a numerical format. Whether in classification, you can say whether it is a cold or hot or humid or something like that. So different classes are present. So where you'll be getting the output. So here it determines the temperature in a numerical format. Here you'll get whether it is a cold or hot or good weather or bad weather. So those are basically supervised, where you are giving the output to the each of the values as input. So next comes unsupervised learning, where the data is unlabeled. Unlabeled in the sense you don't have the output class determined for each of the instance, but here also you'll be able to determine the output values. So basically the algorithms are clustering algorithms. So here clustering is nothing but a group of customers who are preferring a product. Such kind of things come under clustering. So here you have different kind of clustering algorithms, and also association rules also come under unsupervised learning, because you are just giving the data of what the customers are buying, and depending on the data it is determining which products a customer, if he is buying a X product, is also buying a Y product. So such kind of things come under association, and that is nothing but a priori algorithm. So this slide depicts all the differences between classification, regression, and clustering. So classification is nothing but, as I told you, a categorical value like 0 or 1, and spam or not spam. And regression, mainly if you give the input, it will determine the price. So here, depending upon your, say, your household position or the latitude or longitude values, or previous household price values, it will be determining the current price of your household. So that is a numerical value, which is termed as regression. In clustering, you don't have any inputs. Here, the set of customers who are basically interested in a certain kind of things, or shopping things, or films, such kind of things you will determine here. So these two basically fall under supervised, and clustering falls under unsupervised learning. So there is another thing which is called as reinforcement learning. So which is basically a kind of like robotics kind of thing. So this is very hard to program. So this is known as agent, and this will be understanding the environmental changes which is happening around it, and depending on the values, or depending on the preferred changes in the environment, it will be taking the measures which has to be performed. So if you train the algorithm, if you train the machine, it will automatically determine the best value. So here you have something known as rewards or penalties. So if it determines correctly, you will give a reward, or you will determine a penalty. So this reinforcement learning also comes under a supervised kind of thing, but what mainly does is the kind of robotics associated with it, and these are some of the algorithms which are we are going to discuss further. So tomorrow we'll be going through classification algorithms. So basically the decision tree classification and k nearest neighbor classification. So today I have just given the basics of all these things, and tomorrow we'll be seeing how the classification is done, the numerical concepts and the theoretical concepts before going to the actual coding. And once the theoretical concepts or the mathematical thing is done, I will show you how it is coded. So basically, coding is pretty much simpler, but the math behind it or numeric behind it is very much useful while you are teaching to the students or while you are doing the uh, research analysis and stuff. So that's it for today. So hope we'll meet tomorrow. So have a good day, everyone.